Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. Rain snaked down the window panes, blurring the world outside. Marcus stood in front of his attorney's office window, clutching the stack of photos, his knuckles white with exertion. The ticking of the clock was extraordinarily clear in the silent space, like the vague anticipation within him, the hope that this was all just a nightmare. So, Attorney Thomas broke the silence with a light cough. These photos confirm your suspicions. Marcus turned around, staring blankly. 17 years of marriage, a 16-year-old daughter, Lily, and the woman he thought he'd spend the rest of his life with, Claire. It all fell apart in just 3 weeks. She and Brandon have known each other for 19 years. Marcus' voice trailed off. They used to date before we met. I never thought. Thomas flipped through the evidentiary material and shook his head. According to the investigator's report, it's been 8 months since they reconnected. Not long after Claire's 40th birthday, Marcus said bitterly, "A classic case of midlife crisis, isn't it?" "This is more common than you might think," Thomas said. "But I have to tell you that if your daughter insists on living with her mother, the court will likely honor her wishes, given her age." Marcus looked at the photos spread out on the table. Claire and the man, Brandon, talking intimately at the restaurant. They were walking hand in hand through the park. And the most heartbreaking one, they were kissing in front of the hotel. The photos plucked at his heart like knives. "She didn't just betray me." Marcus's voice trembled. "She dragged our daughter into it. Lily told me yesterday that her mom stated that Brandon was her true love and that they both should be with him. My daughter, my own daughter, actually approves of this." "Teenagers tend to be very impressionable," Thomas reassured. "Give her some time." Marcus looked up, determination in his eyes. "I'm not going to fight her for custody. If Lily thinks her mother's behavior is right, then let her experience that life." "Marcus, are you sure? This could dash." "I'm sure," Marcus interrupted. "I'm going to make them understand the price of choice." After leaving his lawyer's office, Marcus drove through the rainy city, the scene around him in some kind of harmony with the storm inside him. He was a structural engineer at an architectural firm in Boston with a thriving career and a beautiful family. At least, that's what he always thought. Claire is a high school English teacher who is smart and passionate. They met at an educational charity event when Marcus was volunteering for a local school expansion project. The two fell in love at first sight and married 8 months after they met, and Lily was born a year later. Now he was beginning to wonder if he really knew the woman he had lived with for 17 years. When Marcus returned to his empty home, he stood in the foyer and looked around. The family photos on the wall looked like they were mocking him, showing a life he thought was real. He walked over to the liquor cabinet, took out a bottle of whiskey, and took a long swig straight from the bottle. The phone vibrated with a message from Claire. "We need to talk about property division. Brandon suggested we meet at the coffee shop tomorrow." Marcus stared at his cell phone screen, anger burning in his chest. "Brandon suggested? The man who stole his wife is now going to interfere with their divorce proceedings?" He quickly replied, "No need. You can take whatever you want. I won't fight for anything, including custody of Lily." The cell phone rang immediately, and it was Claire calling. Marcus let it ring and took another swig of his drink. When the call stopped, there was another text message. "What do you mean by that? We need to handle this like adults." "Like you handled our marriage like an adult," he replied. Soon after, Claire responded, "I know you're angry, but that's not fair to Lily. She needs her father." Marcus sneered and replied, "Looks like she needs her mother's true love more than anything. Don't worry, I won't interfere with your happiness." He turned off his cell phone and sat in the darkness, letting his anger and sense of betrayal consume him. But underneath the dark mood, an idea began to form. He wouldn't leave silently as a victim. If Claire wants to betray him, if Lily wants to support her choice, then he'll let them experience the full consequences of that decision firsthand. Early the next morning, Marcus stood in front of the mirror and stared at his tired face. Dark circles under his eyes and stubble bore witness to a sleepless night, but there was a determined gleam in his eyes. He has to start rebuilding his life while plotting how to make Claire and Brandon pay for their betrayal. On his way to work, Marcus gets a call from his best friend Alex. "Brother, I heard about you. Are you okay?" Alex asked with concern. "Word travels fast," Marcus said bitterly. "Who told you that?" "Kate talked to Claire on the phone last night," said Alex, who is his wife and a friend of Claire's. "Look, We're all on your side. Claire's behavior is outrageous. Thanks, Marcus said, but I think I need some time alone. Understanding. But remember, you can always talk to me, okay? After hanging up, Marcus arrives at work and tries to focus on his work, but his mind keeps drifting back to the signs of the past few months. Claire's frequent teacher meetings, her cell phone always locked with a password, and her sudden apathy toward her sex life. All these signals that should have alerted him were ignored by his blind trust. During his lunch break, Marcus gets a text from Lily. Dad, Mom says you don't want me anymore. Is this true? The message made his heart wrench. He wants to call back immediately to explain, but then remembers what Lily said yesterday, that she supports her mother being with Brandon because it's true love. A wave of anger surged through him, and he replied, I never said I didn't want you. You're the one who chose to side with the one who betrayed me. Soon after, Lily replied, You don't understand. Mom and Brandon truly love each other. She's not happy with you. Those words were like sharp daggers to Marcus's heart. His own daughter went so far as to defend her mother's infidelity. After taking a deep breath, he replied, Now that you've decided on a position, enjoy the new life you've chosen. After work, instead of going home, Marcus goes to a private investigator's office recommended by a lawyer. I need to know everything I can about this Brandon, he told Detective Daniel. His job, his finances, his past relationships, anything that might be useful. Daniel nodded, taking down the information. Often, clients want this information in order to secure favorable divorce terms. But by the sound of your voice, it feels more like revenge. Marcus looked him straight in the eye. Yes, I want them to understand the price of betrayal. But I promise that everything will be within the law. Daniel didn't judge, just nodded professionally. I understand. You'll get a preliminary report in a week. After leaving the detective's office, Marcus goes to a bar that he and Claire have never been to together. He needed a neutral place to organize his thoughts and plan his next move. Sitting at the bar, he ordered a scotch and began to write down the plan in his notebook. First, he needs to find a new place to live, away from his memory-filled home. Secondly, he has to reassess his financial situation to make sure Claire can't access his major assets. Third, he needs to gather more information about Brandon and find out what his weaknesses are. Looks like you're planning a war. A voice interrupted his thoughts. Marcus looked up and saw a redhead standing next to him with a cocktail in her hand. In a sense, yes, he replied tersely. I'm Rachel. She introduced herself, sitting on the high stool next to him. Lost love. Divorce, Marcus said briefly, not interested in chatting. Rachel, however, has no intention of leaving. I just ended a bad relationship. The boyfriend slept with his best friend and argued that it was just an accident. Despite not wanting to converse, Marcus was amused by her bluntness. An accident? It's so creative. Yeah, like he accidentally fell and his penis just happened to be in her, Rachel said mockingly. So, what's your story? Marcus was going to gloss over it, but found himself starting to recount. My wife rekindled an old flame with her ex-boyfriend from 19 years ago, dated him for 8 months behind my back, and now she's going to take my daughter and live with him. Rachel frowned. How old is your daughter? 16. She knew mom was cheating? Marcus nods. Not only do they know, they support her and say it's true love. Rachel shook her head. Teenagers. They think the plots in romantic novels are real life. The two talked for about an hour, and Marcus found it a strange relief to share with a stranger instead. When Rachel offers to exchange phone numbers, he hesitates but agrees. Maybe a new friend is just what he needs right now. Back at the motel, Marcus lies in bed, staring at the ceiling. The cell phone rings. It's Claire. After a moment's hesitation, he picked up. You can't just give up custody of Lily. Claire said immediately, anger in her voice. It's not fair to her. Unfair. Marcus sneered. You betrayed our marriage, had our daughter on your side against me, and now you come to talk to me about fairness? It's not that simple, Marcus. Brandon and I are connected in ways you'll never understand. Oh, do explain it to me, he said sarcastically. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, and Claire sighed. We fell in love when we were young, but we were both too young and immature. Meeting him again made me realize that feeling never went away. So our 17 years of marriage was just a transition period while you waited for true love to return. Marcus's voice trembled with anger. Tell me, Claire, were you thinking of him when you told me you loved me in our marriage bed? It's not like that. I used to love you, Marcus. But people change. Yeah, well, apparently some people turn out to be assholes who betray their partners and children, he said coldly. Look, I've made up my mind. I won't fight you for custody. Since Lily thinks that your true love with Brandon is more important than our family, let her follow your lives. Marcus, come on. Lily needs her father. She made her choice when she decided to support your betrayal, Marcus said. Don't worry, I'll pay the support on time. But beyond that, you don't want anything from me. He hung up the phone, feeling a strange sense of calm. The first step has been accomplished, making Claire realize that there will be consequences for her actions. Now, it's time to start the next step in the program. A week later, Daniel came to see Marcus with a preliminary investigation report on Brandon. The two sat in the corner of a quiet cafe, away from anyone who might recognize them. Brandon Mitchell, 44, financial advisor, Daniel said, flipping through the folder, works for Prestige Investment and earns about $180,000 a year. Divorced once, ex-wife Jessica Miller. The marriage lasted 5 years and divorced 7 years ago due to personality differences. No children. Marcus nodded, signaling him to continue. The funny thing is, Daniel lowered his voice. He looks polished, but his finances aren't solid. There is a large amount of credit card debt and a sizable gambling debt. He has records at several casinos in Atlantic City. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Gambling problem? It seems so. And according to my research, he was once investigated for financial fraud, though ultimately not convicted. The message hit Marcus like a bolt of lightning. If Brandon has gambling and financial problems, his motives for approaching Claire may be more than just true love. One more thing, Daniel continues. His ex-wife mentioned in an interview that Brandon is very good at manipulating people. She says he has an ability to make people believe he's special, but in reality he only cares about his own interests. Marcus pondered the information and a plan began to form in his mind. If Brandon really is approaching Claire for financial gain, then revealing that would be the most effective form of revenge. I need more detailed information about his finances and gambling history, Marcus said, especially who he owes money to and in what amounts. Daniel nodded. It will take some time, but it can be done. Anything else you need to know? Marcus thought for a moment. Yes. I want to know exactly how he and Claire reconnected. Who contacted who first and when. After leaving the cafe, Marcus drove to look at a couple of apartments. He needs a fresh start, a place without Claire and memories of the past. He finally settled on a modern apartment in the city center, only 15 minutes from the office. With the help of the moving company, Marcus took only his personal belongings and some furniture. As he left his former home for the last time, he stood in the doorway and looked around, feeling a stab of pain. 17 years of memories will be left behind. Just then, Lily's car pulled into the driveway. A flash of discomfort crossed her face as she saw her father standing in the doorway. They hadn't spoken directly since that day's text exchange. Are you really moving? She asked as she got out of the car, uncertainty in her voice. Marcus nodded. Yes. Your mother can move in with Brandon and start your new life together. Lily bit her lip. Dad, it's not that I don't love you. It's just what, Lily? Marcus asked rhetorically. Only you supported your mother's betrayal of our family. You don't understand. She suddenly raised her voice. Mom has never been happy. You're always working and never really care about her feelings. Marcus felt a sharp pain, but he controlled his emotions. That's what she told you? Did she mention that she's been lying to me for the past 8 months? Betray me in our marriage. She said she tried to mend your relationship, but you never listened, Lily insisted, and Brandon made her feel valued. Funny, Marcus laughed bitterly. Who stayed up late on your 15th birthday to help you finish your science project? Who takes time out of their week to take you guys to the lake for a picnic? Who gave up 3 promotions just so they could spend more time with their families? Lily fell silent, tears glistening in her eyes. Anyway, Marcus softened his tone. This is between adults. But remember, Lily, choices always have consequences. You choose to side with them, I accept that. But don't expect me to pretend everything is fine and continue to play a supporting role in your lives. He turned away, not looking back to see his daughter's reaction. It was painful, but he knew it was necessary. Lily needs to understand what it means to support her mother's infidelity. Later that night, Marcus was packing in his new apartment when he received a text from Rachel. "Are you free for a drink tonight?" He hesitated, but eventually replied, "Yes, but I just moved, and I'm a little busy right now. How about tomorrow night?" "No problem," Rachel replied quickly. "Send your new address, and I can bring over some Chinese food. There's always no time to cook when you move." The offer warmed Marcus unexpectedly. Maybe it's comforting to have someone who cares, even if it's just a new friend. After work the next day, Marcus returns to his new apartment just as Rachel arrives, carrying bags of food. "I hope you like Szechuan food," she smiled. "I brought Kung Pao chicken and boiled fish." The two ate dinner in the freshly opened cardboard box and half-empty room, talking about their respective lives. Rachel is an interior designer who has just started her own small studio. Her enthusiasm and independent spirit impressed Marcus. "So," Rachel asked as she leaned back on the couch after dinner, "how's your revenge plan coming along?" Marcus was a little surprised. "You remember?" "Of course," she laughed mischievously. "I'm a little vindictive." "Seriously, have you figured out how to make them pay?" Marcus hesitated, but found himself beginning to share the findings of the investigation. The man, Brandon, appears to have a serious gambling problem and financial woes. "I suspect he may have approached Claire for more than just affection." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "You mean he might have his eye on your property?" "It's a possibility. I'm gathering more evidence." "Here's an idea," Rachel snapped. "Why don't we set a trap and see if he really has feelings for Claire or if he only cares about money?" Marcus was surprised by her active participation, but also a little curious. What trap? Let him reveal his true colors. If all he really cares about is money, then give him a chance to prove it, Rachel explains. "For example, you could somehow let him know that you have a secret asset that Claire might get after the divorce. Let's see if he'll bite." Marcus pondered the suggestion. "It's really an interesting idea, but it needs careful planning." "I'll think about it," he said eventually. "But first, I need more information about him to make sure the plan doesn't backfire." Rachel nodded, then looked at her watch. "Oh, it's already so late. I should go." Marcus walked her to the door and felt a sudden pang of dismay. "Thank you for the dinner, and listen, anytime," Rachel smiled, then stood on her tiptoes and kissed him gently on the cheek. "Remember, sometimes the best revenge is to have a better life." After closing the door, Marcus stood there, feeling the warmth lingering on his cheeks. Rachel's words echoed in his mind. The best revenge is to have a better life. But at the moment, he needs more than just a better life. He needs justice. He's going to make Claire and Brandon realize the true cost of betrayal. Over the next few weeks, Marcus immersed himself in working and plotting his revenge. Meanwhile, his friendship with Rachel deepens. She becomes a bright light in his life, but he's careful to keep his distance, not wanting to commit emotionally too soon. One evening, while Marcus was in his apartment reviewing the latest report from Daniel, the phone rang. "It's Lily." "Dad." Her voice sounded small, almost childlike. "Lily, what's wrong?" Even with his reservations, he asked with immediate concern. Can you come pick me up? I'm at Mom's new place, but I want to come to yours." Marcus hesitated. "What happened?" There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment, and then Lily whispered, "Brandon and Mom had a fight. It's intense. He cursed her and said some terrible things." Marcus felt a surge of anger, but also a complex sense of satisfaction. It seemed that the aura of true love was fading. "I'll be right there," he said. "Send me the address." 20 minutes later, Marcus stopped in front of a medium-sized townhouse. He's just getting out of the car when Lily bursts out of the house, dragging a backpack with her. He noticed her eyes were red and swollen, obviously having cried. When she got in the car, Lily didn't say anything, just clutched her backpack tightly. Marcus didn't press the issue, just drove home quietly. Back at the apartment, he prepared the guest room for Lily and made 2 cups of hot chocolate. "Want to talk?" he asked softly as he handed her a cup. Lily took a sip of her hot chocolate, then took a deep breath. "They're always fighting. It started out fine, but lately it's gotten more frequent and worse. Tonight Brandon came home drunk, said he lost money at the casino, and then started blaming Mom for not having enough money to support him." Marcus kept a calm expression, but inside he was already turning over. "Mom says the divorce isn't final and she can't touch your joint property yet. And then Brandon just..." fumed, and said he wouldn't have even reconnected with her if it wasn't for that money. The confession shocks Marcus, even though he's long suspected Brandon's motives. Did he really say that? Lily nodded, tears welling up again. Mommy broke down. She keeps saying she gave up everything, including you, for him, and he's just in it for the money. Marcus was silent for a moment, contemplating how to respond. He could expose Claire's hypocrisy right away, but he realizes that the most important thing right now is to support his daughter. Lily, it's rare for people to make choices without fully anticipating the consequences. Your mom chose the path she thought would make her happy, but apparently it didn't turn out that way. I thought they truly loved each other, Lily sobbed. Mom said Brandon was the love of her life. They were just too young back then. I thought it was as romantic as in the movies. Marcus sighs. Reality is rarely like the movies. Real relationships require trust, respect, and commitment, not just passion and romance. Lily looked up at her father with remorse in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Dad. I shouldn't have supported Mom in leaving you. It's okay, Marcus said softly, though still aching inside. You were just trying to support your mother. They sat quietly for a while. Then Lily asked, Can I stay here for a while? Of course, Marcus replied without hesitation. This will always be your home. Marcus tossed and turned that night. Lily's confession confirms his suspicion that Brandon's approach to Claire was likely financially motivated. But instead of the satisfaction he expected, the discovery brought him a profound sense of apprehension, especially seeing his daughter hurt as a result. The next morning, as Marcus was preparing his coffee, his cell phone rang. It's Claire. Is Lily at your place? She asked immediately, her voice strained. Yes, she's safe. Last night she called me to pick her up. Claire sighed in relief. Thank goodness. There was a fight, and she suddenly ran out. I'm worried, she told me. Marcus said calmly. About Brandon and how he approached you for money. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then Claire whispered, It's not like that. He was just stressed and said things he shouldn't have. Claire, Marcus sighed. How long are you going to keep fooling yourself? That man took advantage of your nostalgia for the past and approached you because he knew we had joint property. You don't know what's going on between us. Claire suddenly raised her voice, but quickly calmed it down again. Look, I don't want to argue with you about this. I just want to make sure Lily's okay. She's fine, but she needs time to calm down. She can stay here as long as she wants. Claire hesitated, then said, Tell her I love her, okay? After hanging up, Marcus saw Lily standing in the kitchen doorway. Mom, she asked. Marcus nodded. She's worried about you. Lily sat down and took the coffee Marcus handed her. I don't know what to do, Dad. Mom looked sad, but she chose to believe Brandon. Sometimes it's harder to admit you've made a mistake than it is to keep on being wrong, Marcus explains. Your mom probably feels now that if she admits Brandon isn't who she thought he was, then everything she gave up for him is meaningless. Lily pondered those words, then asked, Do you hate Mommy? Marcus was silent for a moment and answered honestly, I used to hate it, but now, I'm more sad, grieving that everything we've built together has ended like this. This is the truth, though not the whole truth. Marcus does feel sad, but the anger and desire for revenge in his heart is not completely gone. However, seeing his daughter injured as a result makes him start to rethink his plans. So what about your revenge plan? Later in the evening, when Marcus tells Rachel what happened, she asks. The two sat on the balcony of Marcus' apartment, enjoying their dinner. Honestly, I'm not sure anymore, Marcus admitted. And seeing Lily get hurt over it makes me wonder if it was all worth it. Rachel nodded thoughtfully. I understand. But think about it. If Brandon really did approach Claire for money, then revealing that is not only revenge, but also protecting your ex-wife and daughter. Marcus never considered it from that perspective. If Brandon really is a financial fraudster, then exposing him will not only satisfy Marcus's vengeance, but also protect Claire from further harm. You're right, he said eventually, but I need a way to reveal the truth without hurting Lily even more. Rachel pondered for a moment, then smiled. I have an idea. How about we focus on getting you back on your feet first? There's an art exhibit tomorrow, and I'd like to invite you to go with me. A change of scenery would do you good. Marcus smiled gratefully. Sounds good. Thank you, Rachel. Late at night, when Rachel had left, Marcus stood on his balcony, looking out over the city lights. His plans for revenge need to be reconsidered, but not completely abandoned. Brandon must pay for his actions, but the methodology needs to be more careful so as not to hurt innocent people. At the same time, he remembers what Rachel said: the best revenge is to have a better life. Perhaps that was part of the plan. He'll rebuild his life, not only for revenge, but for his future and Lily's. Over the next month, Marcus's life gradually got on track. Lily decides to live with him for the time being, a decision that brings him unexpected joy and complexity. On the one hand, he's happy to reconnect with his daughter. On the other hand, it means he needs to be more careful with his revenge plans so they don't affect her. Lily's arrival has also given the apartment more life. The empty room was filled with her books, posters, and various girly items. On weekends, they shop and go to the movies together to try to rebuild their father-daughter relationship. "Are you and that Rachel dating?" Lily asked out of the blue one night as they were making dinner together. The knife in Marcus' hand paused for a moment. "Why do you ask?" "She's been here a couple times," Lily shrugged, "and you guys seem pretty close." Marcus thought for a moment about how to respond. He and Rachel are definitely growing closer, but he's not sure how to define their relationship, especially during this sensitive time. "We're friends," he said eventually, "but we do enjoy each other's company." Lily nodded and continued chopping vegetables. "I think she's nice. Much better than Brandon." Marcus was surprised at his daughter's candor, but decided to seize the opportunity to learn more. "How is Brandon treating your mom?" "Except for that fight." Lily sighed. "It was okay at first. He always brings gifts and is sweet to his mom. But when they moved in together, things changed. He always complains about not having enough money and makes his mom pay for most of his expenses. Sometimes he comes home late at night, smelling of alcohol and perfume scent." This information made Marcus' mind tighten. It seems Brandon didn't just approach Claire for money. He was probably cheating on her. "Did you tell Mom about the perfume smell?" Lily shook her head. "I'm afraid she'll be more upset. And I'm kind of mad at her that she left our home for him." Marcus understands his daughter's complex emotions. Even though she's living with him now, Claire is still her mother, and she's certainly worried about her well-being. "You know," Marcus said softly, "no matter what happens, your mom loves you. She may have made bad choices, but that won't change her love for you." Lily looked surprised. "Why are you speaking for her?" "She betrayed you." "Because it takes too much energy to hate someone." Marcus found himself saying something a little out of the blue. "And anyway, she's still your mom." After dinner, while Lily went to do her homework, Marcus contacted Daniel to find out about Brandon's recent movements. "Interesting development," Daniel said over the phone. "Brandon has been frequenting an upscale nightclub called Sapphire lately. According to my informant, he appears to be close to a woman named Vanessa." "Do you have proof?" "There are a couple of photos that show them leaving the club together and being very close. And hotel registration records." Marcus felt a sneer. True enough. He's squeezing money out of Claire while he's out having fun. "One more thing," Daniel continued. "I looked into his gambling debts. He owes a man named Miguel nearly $100,000, due at the end of next month. According to my sources, this Miguel is not a character to be messed with." This information puts a new spin on Marcus's plan for revenge. He doesn't need to take direct action, just wait for Brandon to self-destruct under financial pressure. But he hesitated at the thought that Claire might be implicated. "Continue to monitor him," Marcus eventually said, "especially his interactions with this Vanessa and how he deals with gambling debts." The next day, Marcus gets a text from Claire at his office. "Can we talk?" "About Lily and other things." They had an appointment at a cafe near the office. When Marcus arrives, he finds Claire already waiting for him, looking exhausted. Her once shiny blonde hair was now dull, and there were noticeable dark circles under her eyes. "You don't look so good," Marcus said bluntly as he sat down. Claire smiled bitterly. "Straight talk, as always. Anything you want to talk about?" Marcus keeps his distance. Claire took a deep breath. "First, about Lily. She told me she wanted to keep living with you. While it breaks my heart, I understand that she needs time and space." Marcus nodded. "She can always go back if she wants to. It's her choice." Secondly, Claire hesitated about Brandon. "You're right. It's not who I thought it was." The admission surprised Marcus, but he stayed silent and waited for her to continue. "He does have financial problems, serious problems." Claire's voice trailed off. "He owes a lot of money, and now the debt collectors are starting to harass us. I. I don't know what to do. Marcus felt a rush of mixed emotions, sympathy for Claire's plight on the one hand, and a sense of, I told you so satisfaction on the other. Why are you telling me this? He asked, his voice gentler than expected. Claire looked at him, vulnerability in her eyes. Because despite everything, you're still the most honest and reliable person I know. I don't know who to turn to for help. Marcus felt his chest tighten. In her time of greatest need, Claire still turns to him for help, even though she betrayed him. What about Brandon? Does he know you came to see me? Claire shook her head. He's hardly ever home these days. Says he's busy with work, but I doubt it. She didn't finish, but the implication was clear. You think he cheated on you? Marcus said, straight out. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Lily told you? She smelled his perfume. She was worried about you, Marcus admitted, but wasn't sure if she should tell you. Silence descended between them. Marcus is at war inside. Part of him wants to give Claire a taste of what it feels like to be betrayed, and another part of him can't bear to see her in so much pain. What should I do, Marcus? She eventually asked softly. Marcus took a deep breath and made a decision. Listen to me, Claire. You need to protect yourself and your assets now. If Brandon really does owe money to someone dangerous, you don't want to be involved. Are you saying I should leave him? It's your decision, Marcus said calmly, but it should at least protect your financial security. Freeze your joint accounts immediately and make sure he doesn't have access to any more money. Claire nodded and said softly, I'm sorry, Marcus. For everything. I thought I was chasing true love, but in reality, you're just blinded by visions of the past. Marcus finished for her, no accusation in his voice, only understanding. Upon leaving the cafe, Marcus felt a strange sense of calm. His original plan for revenge was to expose Brandon for what he really is and make Claire realize the mistake she made. Now it seemed to be happening naturally, without his intervention. But at the same time, he realizes that true vengeance will not bring the satisfaction he thought it would. Seeing Claire's pain at the betrayal didn't ease his own hurt. Instead, it just increases the total amount of suffering in the world. Later that night, Marcus shares with Rachel how the meeting with Claire went. So you decided to help her? Rachel asked, a hint of surprise in her voice. I gave her some advice, Marcus corrected, but the final decision is hers. Rachel smiled slightly. It's a lot like you. Even after being betrayed, one still chooses to do the right thing. Marcus shook his head. I'm not sure it was the right decision. Part of me still wants to see her pay for her choices. But the other part of you understands that true vengeance won't bring the relief you want, Rachel said softly, reaching out to cover his hand. That's why you're a good man, Marcus. Marcus felt a warmth flow through his body as her hand touched his. In this moment, he realizes that he has begun to develop feelings for Rachel that go beyond friendship. But he wasn't sure he was ready yet, or if this was just an instinctive reaction to seek solace. I don't know what to do next, he said frankly. On the one hand, I don't want to interfere with Claire and Brandon. On the other hand, I'm worried that Lily might be implicated. Rachel thinks for a moment, then says, maybe the best action is no action. Let things develop naturally while keeping Lily safe. After all, sometimes the most powerful force is time itself. Marcus nodded in agreement. Maybe she's right. Sometimes the best revenge is not through your own actions, but by making the other person eat their own. Instead, he, in turn, can focus on rebuilding his life and proving that he can recover from his betrayal and become stronger. Time rushed by, and it was already 2 months later. Lily has fully adapted to living with her father, and Marcus is gradually moving on from his betrayal. His relationship with Rachel continues to grow, although they still maintain certain boundaries. One night, as Marcus and Lily are preparing dinner, the doorbell rings. Marcus opens the door and is surprised to find Claire standing outside, looking haggard. What happened? He asked immediately. Brandon's gone. Claire's voice trembled. 3 days ago, he said he was going to meet a client, and he hasn't been back since. His cell phone is off, and she paused. Someone broke into our house and rummaged through it. Marcus motioned for her to come in, and Lily immediately ran from the kitchen when she heard her mother's voice. Seeing her daughter, Claire couldn't hold back the tears and hugged her tightly. Did you call the police? Marcus asked. Claire nodded. The police said they'd investigate, but if Brandon left of his own free will and there's no evidence he was in danger, there's not much they can do. Marcus pondered her words. According to Daniel's investigation, Brandon owes a dangerous man $100,000 for a period of time just recently. If he can't pay back, the intruders, what did they take? Marcus asked. The strange thing is that they seem to be looking for something specific. Claire wiped a tear from her eye. Most of the valuables were left untouched, but all the places where something could have been hidden were thoroughly rummaged through. Marcus exchanged a serious look. Claire, you need to find a safe place to stay for a while. If Brandon really does owe money to dangerous people, they might think you know where it is. Claire paled. You think he might be in danger? I don't know, Marcus said honestly. But you shouldn't live there alone just to be safe. Mom can live with us, right, Dad? Lily offered immediately, a plea in her eyes. Marcus hesitated. It seems like a bad idea to let his ex-wife live in, especially when he's trying to rebuild his life. But he saw Lily's worried eyes and thought about the danger Claire might be in, and finally nodded. You can stay in the guest room, he said, until things settle down. Later that night, when Lily and Claire were both resting, Marcus contacted Daniel with the news that Brandon was missing. Actually, I was about to contact you. Daniel sounded serious. According to my sources, Brandon is indeed in trouble. He tries to pay off his debts with a big gamble, but loses even more. The money owed now is close to $200,000. Do you think he escaped or? Marcus didn't finish. It's hard to say. My informant lost track of Miguel after he last saw him. But there are rumors that Miguel's people are looking for him and are very angry. The news sent a wave of unease through Marcus. No matter how much he resented Brandon, he didn't want to see anyone get really hurt. One more thing, Daniel continued. That Vanessa, Brandon's lover, looks like she's more than just a regular date. She's connected to Miguel and could be used to spy on Brandon. Marcus pondered the information. So it could be a trap? Let him get deeper and deeper into it. It's a possibility. In the gambling world, debtors sometimes use beautiful women to get close to their targets, making them easier to manipulate. After hanging up, Marcus sat in the darkness contemplating his next move. On the one hand, this whole situation has nothing to do with him. On the other hand, Claire and Lily's safety could be in jeopardy. The next morning, Marcus wakes up to find Claire has prepared breakfast. Seeing his once-wife busy in his kitchen felt both familiar and strange. I'm sorry for taking over your kitchen, she said with a slight apology as she noticed his arrival. But I needed something to distract me. Marcus nodded in understanding. Any word from Brandon? Claire shook her head. No, but the police said they would continue to investigate. They ate their breakfast in silence, the atmosphere a little tense. Eventually, Claire spoke up. Thank you for letting me stay here, especially after everything happens. Mostly for Lily. Marcus said honestly. She's worried about you. Claire nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I screwed up everything, didn't I? I thought Brandon was my second chance, a chance to make up for missed love. But in reality, I've ruined what's really worth cherishing. Marcus didn't respond, unsure how to respond to this confession. Part of him wanted to comfort her, the other part reminded himself of the damage she had caused. Just then, his cell phone rang. It's Daniel. There's news, Daniel said, getting straight to the point. Brandon showed up at a hospital, not in good shape. It looks like he got his ass kicked, but is still alive. Marcus was relieved to hear the news. At which hospital? After getting the message, he hung up and turned to Claire. They found Brandon. He's at Memorial Hospital, injured but alive. Surprise and concern flashed in Claire's eyes. How did you know? Marcus realizes he needs to partially confess. I hired a private investigator to look into Brandon. Initially, it was for a divorce case, but then I found out he had a gambling problem and serious debt. Claire looked both shocked and confused. So you've been spying on him? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I would have used this information as some kind of revenge, Marcus admits, to make you see the man you've chosen for what he really is. But then Lily moved in with me, and things got complicated. Claire lowered her head. You could have said, I told you so out loud. It doesn't do anyone any good, Marcus sighed. Especially not Lily. They decide to go to the hospital together, but tell Lily the news first. She chose to stay home, clearly not interested in seeing Brandon. At the hospital, they found Brandon lying in a hospital bed with a swollen face and his arm in a cast. When he saw Claire, his expression became complicated, half shame, half fear. But when he noticed Marcus, a flicker of caution flashed in his eyes. Claire and Marcus. His voice was husky. What a strange combination. What happened, Brandon? Claire asked directly. Who did this to you? Brandon avoided her gaze. I ran into some business disputes. No big deal. A business dispute? Claire's voice rose. You go missing for 3 days, then show up at the hospital, covered in bruises, and you call that a business dispute. Marcus stood by, watching Brandon's reaction. The man was obviously hiding the truth, possibly to protect himself or out of fear. Who were those people who broke into our house, Brandon? Claire continued to press. What are they looking for? Brandon's eyes flashed. I don't know what you're talking about. Enough. Marcus finally spoke. Brandon, we both know you owe Miguel money and tried to flip it by gambling but failed. The debt has now grown to nearly $200,000. Those men broke into your home looking for money, and you were beaten because you couldn't pay your debts. Brandon looked at Marcus in shock, then turned to Claire. You told him? No. Claire shook her head. I didn't realize until this morning that Marcus had hired a private investigator to look into you. Brandon's expression shifted from shock to fear. You don't understand what you're involved in. Miguel is not a character to be messed with. If he finds out you guys know, then we'll call the police, Marcus said firmly. It's not just about you anymore, Brandon. You got Claire involved, and indirectly you got Lily involved. Brandon suddenly looks like he's been defeated. It's too late. They're already looking for that money, and I'm not. What money? Claire asked. Miguel gave me a deadline to either pay back the money or he threatened to collect interest from people I cared about. The threat sent a chill through both Marcus and Claire. So what are you going to do? Marcus asked. Keep hiding? That would only make it worse. Brandon closed his eyes. I don't know. Maybe I should leave the city and start over with a new identity. And leave the danger to Claire and Lily? Marcus had disgust in his voice. That's your solution? Brandon didn't answer, his eyes averted. In this moment, Marcus sees the man standing before him for what he is, a selfish, cowardly liar willing to sacrifice anyone to protect himself. We need to call the police. Marcus turned to Claire. This isn't just about gambling debts anymore. This is threats and violence. Claire hesitated. But what if that gets Brandon into more trouble? Marcus looked at her incredulously. After all this, you're still protecting him? Claire shook her head, confusion in her eyes. I don't know what to do, Marcus. I really don't know. Marcus took a deep breath and made a decision. Then I'll make the decision for you. I'll contact the police and tell them about Miguel and the threats. In the meantime, you and Lily will continue to live in my house until things are resolved. Brandon jerked his head up. You can't do that. You don't know how dangerous Miguel is. And you led him to my ex-wife and daughter, Marcus said coldly. You've lost your say. Claire remained silent as she left the hospital. As they sat in the car, she finally spoke. You're right. We should call the police. Brandon puts us all in danger when the only thing he cares about is himself. Marcus nodded and started the car. We'll get through this and move on with our respective lives. Each, Claire repeated softly, a hint of sadness in her voice. I guess that's the end of US, isn't it? Marcus didn't answer, just focused on driving. Deep down, he knew that their marriage was indeed over, not just because of Claire's betrayal, but because he had moved on. He thought of Rachel, of the growing bond between them, and of his gradually healing heart. Revenge is no longer his goal. Protecting Lily and rebuilding your life is what it's all about. And as Rachel says, sometimes the best revenge is to have a better life. Over the next few days, Marcus, Claire, and the police worked closely together to provide information about Miguel and his illegal activities. The investigation unfolded quickly, with police saying it was more than a simple case of debt threats, but involved a wider network of gambling, loan sharks, and extortion. Brandon was investigated by police at the hospital, but he provided limited information and was clearly still trying to protect himself. When the police asked if he would testify against Miguel, he refused, claiming it would put him in greater danger. One evening, while Marcus was working in the study of his apartment, Claire knocked on the door, holding 2 cups of tea. Excuse me, she said softly. Just thought you might need this. Marcus took the tea and nodded his thanks. Since that day at the hospital, their relationship had subtly changed, from hostility to a sort of reluctant cooperation. Any new developments from the police? Claire asked, sitting in the chair across from the desk. Marcus shook his head. Not yet. They say these types of investigations take time, especially when it comes to influential people like Miguel. Claire sighed. This is all my fault. If I hadn't been fooled by Brandon's sweet talk, if I hadn't given up on our marriage. We've both made our choices, Claire, Marcus said calmly. What matters now is how we move forward. Silence spread between them until Claire spoke again. I noticed the picture of you and the red-headed lady. Who is she? Marcus followed her gaze to the picture frame on the desk. It was a picture of him and Rachel at an art exhibit, the two standing in front of a large abstract painting and smiling. Rachel, he replied simply. Where? Friend. Claire smiled slightly, but with mixed emotions in her eyes. Looks like more than just friends. She's beautiful. Marcus wasn't sure how to respond. He and Rachel do have a special relationship that has developed over the past few months, but they both agree to take things slow and give Marcus time to really step out of the past. We're dating, he eventually admitted, but it's in the early stages. Claire nodded, looking down at her teacup. I'm glad. Seeing Marcus' surprised expression, she added, Really, I'm happy for you, Marcus. You deserve happiness. It was an unexpected confession, and Marcus wasn't sure how to respond. By the way, Claire continued, her tone becoming more serious. I'm already looking for an apartment. Once this threat is removed, I will leave you all alone. You don't need to rush to move out, Marcus found himself saying, albeit with some internal ambivalence, at least until the police confirm it's safe. Claire smiled gratefully. Thanks. But we all know that can't last long. Lily needs to see us move forward individually and not get stuck in this weird family reunion. Marcus knew she was right. While living with Claire and Lily fills the hole in his heart to some extent, it's not really a solution. They both need to rebuild their independent lives. The next day, while Marcus was working at the office, he received an urgent text from Daniel. Need to meet immediately. There's important news. They meet in Marcus' office and Daniel looks unusually serious. I have sources that say the police investigation spooked Miguel, Daniel said, lowering his voice. And he's cleaning up some potential threats before he plans to leave town. Marcus was immediately alert. What do you mean? Several debtors, including Brandon, may be targeted. Worse, he probably knows Brandon's cooperating with the police. Although Brandon actually refused to cooperate with the police, the misunderstanding could have been fatal for him. More importantly, if Miguel thinks Claire and Lily know something too, I need to notify the police immediately, Marcus said as he got up, and make sure Claire and Lily are safe. Just then, his cell phone rang. It's Lily. Dad. Her voice sounded scared. Someone's been hanging around the door, looking suspicious. Mom's not home. She's gone to look for an apartment. Marcus felt a wave of panic. Close all doors and windows and call 911 immediately. Tell them there's a suspicious person loitering outside your house, possibly connected to Miguel. I'll be right back. After hanging up, he said to Daniel, I have to go. There might be someone near my apartment. Daniel nodded. I'm going to contact my informants in the police department and tell them to speed things up. Be careful. Marcus drove home as fast as he could, his heart beating wildly. He kept trying to reach Claire, but the call kept going to voicemail. When he was a few blocks from the apartment, he saw flashing police lights on the side of the road. Parking his car, he rushed to his apartment building, only to be stopped by an officer. Sir, there is no access here. I live here, Marcus anxiously explained. My daughter was home, and she called about a suspicious person. Hearing this, the officer's expression turned serious. Are you Marcus? Marcus nodded, his heart sinking. Your daughter is safe, the officer said immediately, much to Marcus' relief. She's in the police car now. But what? We detained a man who was watching outside the apartment. According to preliminary inquiries, he was sent by Miguel. He admitted that their goal was to find Brandon and that they knew Claire was connected to the address. The news confirms Marcus' worst fears. Miguel has targeted his family. Where is that man now? Has been taken to the police station for further questioning. The chief has ordered increased protection for your family. Marcus is taken to the police car, and Lily sees him and immediately rushes out of the car and jumps into his arms, her whole body trembling. It's okay, he hugged his daughter tightly. You're safe. The man had been watching our apartment, Lily drawled. And when he tried to pry the door open, I called 911 like you said. Marcus was proud of his daughter's composure. You did the right thing. The police will protect us now. Just then, a cab pulls up next to the cordon and Claire jumps out, panic written all over her face. Seeing Marcus and Lily, she rushes over and hugs both. "Thank God you guys are okay," she said through tears. "I was looking at the house when I got a call from the police about someone trying to break into the apartment. The police advised them to stay temporarily at a heavily secured hotel until Miguel's threat was fully neutralized. In the hotel suite, the family sits together and tries to make sense of what happened that day. So this is all because Brandon owes that Miguel money?" Lily asked with a shudder. Marcus nodded, partly. But to complicate matters, police now suspect that Miguel is part of a larger criminal network. Brandon is just one of the victims. Or accomplice, Claire said softly, depending on how much he's involved. Marcus looked to his ex-wife. "Did you notice anything suspicious while you were with him?" "Frequent mysterious phone calls, strange meetings, sudden cash receipts." Claire thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No obvious signs. But he does often go out mysteriously, claiming it's a work meeting. His phone is always password locked, and he never lets me touch it. If the police can prove that Brandon was involved in Miguel's illegal activities, then he could face jail time," Marcus explained. Claire looked both shocked and distressed. "I can't believe I've been lied to so thoroughly. I abandoned a loving family to follow a liar and possible criminal. We were all lied to, Mom." Lily reached for her mother's hand. "And I believed his lies too." Marcus looks at the scene in front of him, his daughter comforting his ex-wife, both suffering from betrayal by the same man, and feels a strange sense of reconciliation. His anger and desire for revenge seem to have dissipated, replaced by a sense of calm and relief. That night, after Lily has gone to sleep, Marcus finds Claire on the balcony of her hotel suite, looking out over the city lights. "Lily's asleep," he whispered, standing beside her. Claire nodded and continued to gaze into the distance. "I've always wondered what would have happened to everything if I hadn't reconnected with Brandon in the first place." "There's no point in thinking about it," Marcus said. "What happened happened. But I've ruined everything." Claire turned to him, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've ruined our family. I've ruined Lily's sense of security. And now I've even put us all at risk." Marcus watched her and saw the genuine remorse in the eyes of the woman he once loved. But he also knew that some things, once broken, could not be fully repaired. "We'll get through this," he said calmly, "and move on with our respective lives." Claire gazed at him as if she wanted to say something, but finally just nodded. "You've changed, Marcus." "Carry forward." Calm and more determined. "People always change after going through these things," he admits. "That woman, Rachel, she means a lot to you, doesn't she?" Marcus thought for a moment about how to respond. "Yes, she's important. She helped me keep my sanity in the darkest of times." Claire smiled slightly, despite the tears in her eyes. "I'm glad. Really, you deserve this life." They stood in silence for a moment, the sounds of the city echoing in the distance. Once lovers, now almost strangers, have become allies, united against a common threat. "Tomorrow the police want us to make a formal statement," Marcus said eventually. "And then they'll arrange for further protective measures until Miguel is apprehended." Claire nodded. "I'll tell them everything I know about Brandon." Marcus turned and prepared to leave the balcony, but Claire gently grabbed his arm. "Marcus, thank you. After all this, you could have stayed out of it and let us deal with the consequences. But you didn't." "I won't put Lily in danger," he said simply, "no matter what happens between us." Claire let go and nodded. "Of course. Good night, Marcus." "Good night, Claire." Back in his room, Marcus sends Rachel a brief message telling her they're safe and explaining the current situation. She replied immediately, expressing concern and support. This simple interaction filled his heart with warmth and reminded him that life was going on and new possibilities were unfolding. No matter what happens next, he knows he's out of the shadow of betrayal. True vengeance is not through retaliation, but through rebuilding and growth. And that, for Marcus, was enough. The next morning, the police arranged for Marcus, Claire, and Lily to make formal statements at the police station. An experienced female officer, Detective Rivera, was in charge of recording their testimony. "According to the information we have," Rivera said, sitting across from them and flipping through the file, "Miguel Ortiz is part of a large criminal network involved in illegal gambling, loan sharking, and extortion. Brandon Mitchell may not just be a victim, but may be involved in some of the activities." Claire's face turned pale. "You mean Brandon could be?" An accomplice? Rivera nodded cautiously. We have reason to believe that he helps Miguel find potential customers, people who are wealthy and easily persuaded to gamble. In return, he receives a percentage of the commission. The information sent a wave of revulsion through Marcus. It's no wonder Brandon approaches Claire. She's not only his ex-girlfriend, but also a member of a financially stable family. How did he initially reconnect with you? Rivera asked Claire. Claire thought for a moment. He messaged me on social media, said he saw me around my school, and wanted to know how I was doing. Pure coincidence. Rivera raised an eyebrow. Now that I think about it, probably not, Claire admitted. We first met at a cafe near the school. He mentioned that he was recently divorced, and his career was not going well. He looks vulnerable. Marcus couldn't help but sneer. Classic operation. Rivera ignored the comment and went on to ask, did he ever ask you about your finances after you started dating? Or Marcus? Claire frowned in thought. He did ask how much our house was worth and what Marcus was doing. At the time, I thought he was just making small talk. One more thing, Marcus suddenly thought. Does he know about my retirement account and portfolio? Claire nodded. Yes, I may have mentioned that. When he talked about future plans, I shared some of our financial arrangements. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Brandon wasn't just approaching Claire for emotional reasons. He was likely gathering financial intelligence for Miguel and looking for potential targets. Rivera jotted down this information. It was very helpful. We suspect that Brandon, like several others, does headhunting for Miguel's network. Look for people who have assets but may be interested in gambling or are easy to manipulate. For Marcus, all the pieces of the puzzle finally fit together. Brandon isn't just a con man. He's a scheming fraudster who specializes in finding targets with assets. So, he said slowly, he approached Claire not because of an old flame, but because of our financial situation. Rivera nods. Most likely so. We found a similar pattern in our investigation. Brandon reconnected with ex-girlfriends or ex-colleagues through social media, especially those in good financial standing. Claire covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. I can't believe it. I gave up everything for him. Lily reached for her mother's hand, offering support without words. Marcus felt a rush of mixed emotions, anger, sympathy, and a strange relief. At least now they know the truth. What happens next? Marcus asked. We are actively pursuing Miguel and his associates, Rivera replied. In the meantime, we recommend that the three of you continue to reside in a safe location until the threat is fully neutralized. Where's Brandon? Claire asked, her voice trembling slightly. He is currently in the hospital under protective custody. As soon as the doctor allows it, he will be formally arrested and indicted on charges including fraud and conspiracy. After leaving the police station, they returned to the hotel in silence. Lily went to her room to rest, leaving Marcus and Claire sitting in the suite's living room, each lost in their own thoughts. You've suspected this for a long time, haven't you? Claire finally breaks the silence, about Brandon's true motives. Marcus nodded. I found out about his gambling problem and financial woes when I hired detectives to investigate him. But I didn't think it would be this serious. Claire laughed bitterly. And I can't believe I was completely fooled into thinking it was true love. I'm terrified of my own judgment, Marcus. He's a professional liar, Claire. That's what they do, make people believe lies. Claire looked up at her ex-husband with remorse in her eyes. We really can't undo this, can we? Our marriage. The direct question froze Marcus for a moment. A few months ago, he might not have hesitated to reject any possibility of a settlement. But now, after all this, he felt only a calm certainty. No, we can't, he said softly, but in a gentle tone. Too many things have been broken, Claire. Once trust is broken, it's hard to fully repair. Claire nodded, tears slipping down her face. I understand. I'm sorry for everything. Marcus knows she means it, but he also knows he's embarked on a new journey. Rachel's image comes to mind, bringing a sense of warmth and hope. We could be better co-parents, he said. For Lily. Yes. Claire wiped away her tears. For Lily. 3 days later, the police had good news. They had arrested Miguel and his main accomplice in a raid. Brandon is also officially in custody and faces multiple charges. The danger is over for now. Marcus, Claire and Lily are finally able to leave the hotel and return to their respective lives. Claire found a small apartment in the center of town and was ready to start over. Lily has decided to live primarily with her father, but will visit her mother regularly. The night they move back into the apartment, Marcus invites Rachel over for dinner to formally introduce her to Lily. "So, you're an interior designer?" At dinner, Lily asked Rachel curiously. Rachel nodded and smiled. "Yes, I design mostly residential and small commercial spaces." "That's so cool." Lily's eyes lit up. "I've always wanted to redecorate my room. Dad says it's okay, but his aesthetics are a disaster." "Hey," Marcus pretended to protest, causing the two ladies to laugh. Dinner went better than Marcus expected. Lily and Rachel get along well, and the two even begin to discuss plans for a new style for Lily's room. After the meal, while Lily went to do her homework, Rachel and Marcus sat on the balcony enjoying coffee. "She's a great kid," Rachel said softly. "You guys must be so proud of her." Marcus nodded. "Yeah, she's a lot stronger than I thought. Through it all, she remains optimistic." Rachel covered her hand in his. "You too, Marcus. I don't know many people who can deal with betrayal and danger the way you do." He took her hand and felt the warmth in it. "A large part of that is due to you. You gave me hope and strength in my darkest hour." Rachel smiled gently. "I was just there for you. It was your choice to become stronger, not to be consumed by resentment." Marcus pondered her words. Indeed, a few months ago, revenge was his only motivation. He wants Claire and Brandon to pay for their betrayal. But over time, especially when Lily comes back into his life, his priorities change. Protecting your family, rebuilding your life, healing your wounds. These become more important goals. "I'd like to invite you to the Lake District for the weekend," Marcus said suddenly. "Just the two of us. What do you think?" Surprise and joy twinkled in Rachel's eyes. "Sounds perfect." Just then, Marcus's cell phone rang. "It's Daniel." "Marcus, I have some news you might want to know." The voice on the other end of the line sounded serious. They found out during their interrogation of Brandon that his headhunting activities weren't limited to Claire. Over the past 5 years, he has approached at least 6 financially well-off women, using them for financial information and money. Marcus frowned. "This is more systematic than we thought." "Yes, and there's one more thing. The police found evidence that the Vanessa, Brandon's lover, was actually another headhunter in Miguel's network. She and Brandon are partners in finding and manipulating targets together." This new information sent a chill down Marcus' spine. Brandon and Vanessa are like predators, specializing in finding valuable prey. "Thanks for letting me know," Marcus said. "I hope they all get what they deserve." After hanging up, he shares Daniel's news with Rachel. "It looks like you've got some real revenge," she said as she gazed at him. "Not the kind you planned, but probably more effective." Marcus thought for a moment. "You're right. The best revenge isn't the one I orchestrate, but the one that makes them eat their own." Rachel cocked her head. "So, do you think revenge really satisfies you?" Marcus shook his head after deep thought. "It's not revenge that gives me satisfaction, it's regaining control of my life. Know the truth, protect Lily, and start a new journey. Those are the ones that really matter." Rachel smiled and leaned in to kiss him lightly on the lips. "That's what I admire about you, Marcus. You chose growth over revenge." He responded to her kiss, feeling the warmth welling up in his heart. Perhaps this is true revenge, not by hurting others, but by healing oneself, becoming stronger, and finding new happiness. A week later, Brandon's case made the local news. He was charged with fraud and conspiracy and faces a long prison term. The bigger news was the dismantling of the Miguel network, described as the biggest blow to organized crime in the region in recent years. Claire brought the news when she came to pick up Lily for the weekend. "Looks like Brandon's going to spend a lot of time in jail," she said, handing Marcus a newspaper. Marcus skimmed the front page article. He deserved it. Not only because of what he did to us, but because he hurt so many other people. Claire sighed. "I still can't believe I was lied to so thoroughly." "Don't be too hard on yourself," Marcus responded, no blame in his voice. "You just believed what you saw." Claire threw him a grateful glance. "You've really changed, Marcus." "In a good way." He just nodded and then turned to Lily, who was coming out of her room. "Ready to spend the weekend with Mom?" Lily nodded and picked up her backpack. "Well, we plan on going to the movies and then to that new Thai restaurant." "Sounds great." Marcus smiled. "Have fun." When the mother and daughter left, Marcus stood at the window and watched them get into their car and leave. A few months ago, he couldn't imagine himself calmly watching Claire and Lily leave together. But now, everything is different. The hurt is still there, but it no longer dominates his life. He grabbed his phone and texted Rachel, "They're gone. Do you want to come over? I can make dinner." Almost immediately, she replied, "Of course. Bringing red wine." "Perfect," he returned, a smile lifting the corners of his mouth. After 6 months, life found a new balance and rhythm. Marcus and Rachel's relationship grows deeper, and they begin to discuss the possibility of living together. Lily adapted to shuttling between her parents' two homes and even began to appreciate the two different life experiences this arrangement brought. Claire is also slowly rebuilding her life. She changed the school she taught at, started participating in community activities, and gradually found her confidence and independence. She and Marcus have developed a courteous and effective co-parenting relationship that has Lily's best interests at heart. Brandon's trial ended 3 months ago, and he was sentenced to 15 years in prison on charges including fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. In court, he tried to show remorse, but the judge was clearly unmoved, especially given his past pattern of similar behavior. One Friday night, Marcus is preparing a special dinner for Rachel to celebrate the first anniversary of their relationship. The aroma of roast duck and red wine sauce wafted from the kitchen, and the table was set with candles and flowers. The doorbell rang, and he smiled as he answered the door, expecting to see Rachel's beautiful face. But it's Claire standing outside the door, not looking quite right. "Claire? What happened? Is Lily okay?" he asked with immediate concern. "Lily's fine. She's spending the night at a friend's house," Claire said quickly, then hesitated. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I just got notice that Brandon wants to meet me in jail." Marcus raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Why? After everything, what else does he want?" Claire shook her head. "I don't know. The letter said he had something important to tell me about our relationship and why he approached me." Marcus lets her in, unsure how to react. On the one hand, it seems like a new wound on an old scar. On the other, maybe it's some kind of closure Claire needs. "Are you going to go?" he asked, guiding her to a seat in the living room. Claire sighs, "I'm not sure. Part of me wants to know the whole truth, and the other part wants to forget he exists at all." Marcus thinks for a moment. If going to see him brings you some sort of closure and peace, it might be worth a try. But you don't have to go alone. Claire looked at him in surprise. "You mean? Would you like to come with me?" "If you need support, yes," Marcus found himself saying, "though I'm not sure I'm cut out for the role. Maybe Kate or another friend." "No, actually, I'd appreciate your company if you'd like," Claire said softly. "You know the whole situation, and—" She paused. "You've always given me strength, even when I least deserved it." Just then, the doorbell rang again. Marcus goes to open the door and sees Rachel standing there with a bottle of wine in her hand and a big smile on her face. "Happy birthday, honey," she said cheerfully, then noticed his expression. "What's wrong?" Marcus explained the situation to her briefly, and Rachel immediately expressed her understanding. "Of course you should go with her," she said to Marcus, then turned to Claire. "It must be hard, but facing it and ending it is probably the best way." Claire nodded gratefully. "Thank you for understanding, Rachel. I really didn't mean to interrupt your anniversary." "That's okay," Rachel said gently. "We can reschedule. It's more important." Marcus looked at the two women in front of him, one from his past, one from his future, and felt a strange sense of peace. Life is indeed full of unexpected twists and turns. The next day, Marcus accompanies Claire to meet Brandon at the prison. It was a strange experience, going through security and being directed to the visitors area, waiting for the man who nearly destroyed his marriage to show up. When Brandon is brought into the room, Marcus barely recognizes him. The once polished man now looked haggard and old, the confident gleam in his eyes gone. He was visibly shocked to see Marcus. "Marcus," he almost whispered, then looked to Claire. "I didn't think you'd bring him." "I need support," Claire said simply, "and Marcus has a right to hear anything you have to say." Brandon nods slowly and takes a deep breath as he sits down. "I asked you to come because I owe you an explanation and an apology, though I know it's not nearly enough." Marcus stayed silent, watching the man. Prison life has clearly had an effect on him, but it remains difficult to tell whether he is genuinely repentant or just putting on an act. "When I initially contacted you," Brandon looked straight at Claire, It was really for the purposes of the Miguel network. They asked me to look for potential targets that are financially sound, and you. I remember you mentioning that Marcus was an engineer, so I became a target, Claire said calmly, an unmistakable pain in her voice. Brandon nodded, at first, but then, he paused. I'm starting to get really emotional. Seeing you again and remembering our young relationship. Those feelings are real, Claire. Marcus gave an uncontrollable sneer. True enough to date Vanessa at the same time? True enough to use Claire's finances to pay off a gambling debt. Brandon lowered his head. I know it sounds hypocritical, but feelings and purpose can exist at the same time. I do care about Claire, but I'm also deeply involved in gambling debts and Miguel's threats. I made horrible choices and hurt people I shouldn't have. Claire stared at him for a long time. You know what kills me the most? It's not the money. It's not the threats. It's not even about you and Vanessa. Rather, I gave up a good husband and a stable family for you. I put my daughter through this. All of this is based on your false promises of true love. Brandon's eyes filled with tears. I know. I torture myself every day for it. If we could go back in time. But we can't, Claire interrupted, her voice firm. So what did you invite me here for? Seeking forgiveness. Brandon shook his head. No, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just want you to know the truth, even if it makes me look worse. You deserve to know the truth and to have closure. Marcus observed the exchange and felt a strange sense of transcendence. A few months ago, he might have felt intense anger and a desire for revenge. But now, looking at the broken man, he felt nothing but a quiet compassion. Brandon has lost everything: freedom, dignity, and any possible future. It was more thorough revenge than any Marcus had ever wanted. Leaving the prison, Claire and Marcus stood in the parking lot, both feeling a certain emotional exhaustion and release. How does it feel? Marcus asked softly. Claire took a deep breath and looked to the sky, like a real end. It's painful to know the whole truth, but also emancipation. Now I can really move on. Marcus nodded in understanding. Sometimes we need to face our past head-on to get out of them completely. Thank you for coming with me today, Claire said sincerely, especially considering you were supposed to be celebrating your anniversary with Rachel. It's okay, Marcus said easily. We rescheduled. And, in a way, it's closure for me. Back in the car, the two drove in silence for some time, each lost in their own thoughts. You know, Claire finally broke the silence. I've always wondered how things would be if Brandon had never reappeared in my life. Marcus thought for a moment. We may continue our marriage, but who knows? Maybe the problems between us will manifest themselves in other ways after all. Claire nodded. Maybe. I only wish I had the courage to talk to you directly about my grievances instead of fleeing to what seems like the easier way out. We all have responsibilities, Marcus acknowledged, and I should have been more attentive to your needs and concerns. When they arrive at Claire's apartment, both feel a strange sense of reconciliation. The hurts of the past are still there, but they are no longer as sharp as they once were. Lily will be back tomorrow, Claire said before she got out of the car, and I'll let her know that everything is okay. Thanks, Marcus said, then hesitated. Claire, I hope you find happiness. For real. Claire smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. You too, Marcus. Actually, I think you found it. Rachel is a good person, and I'm happy for you. Marcus nodded and watched his ex-wife walk into the apartment complex. In a sense, today marks the end of a cycle. The betrayal, the pain, the anger, the desire for revenge, all of these are now in the past, replaced by a new understanding and peace. Returning home, he finds Rachel in his apartment, preparing dinner in the kitchen. Hey, she greeted him with a smile. How's it going? Marcus pulled her into his arms and kissed her deeply. Thank you for understanding. Today, it's important. Rachel caressed his cheek. I can tell. You look different, more relaxed, calmer. I think I've finally let go, Marcus admitted, of all the resentment, all the desire for revenge. Seeing Brandon in jail and hearing him admit everything. It's more effective than any retaliation I had planned. Rachel nodded. Sometimes the best revenge is to watch the universe achieve justice for you. Marcus smiles. Or rebuild your life, become stronger, and find new happiness. Rachel responded with a smile. So, happy anniversary? Despite the one-day delay. Happy anniversary, Marcus whispered. kissing her again with gratitude in his heart. A few weeks later, Marcus got a call from Lily, who was spending the weekend at Claire's. "Dad," she sounded excited. "Mom just told me she applied to that teacher exchange program. She's going to teach in London next semester." "Really?" Marcus was a little surprised. "That's great." "Yes." And she asked if I wanted to visit her over spring break. "Do you think it's okay?" Marcus thought for a moment. "Sure. In fact, we can go together if you want. Turn it into a family trip." There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then Lily cautiously asked, "Is Rachel coming too?" Marcus paused. "If you agree." "I think it's great," Lily said with sincerity in her voice. "I like Rachel. And I like us the way we are. Not a traditional family, but still care about each other." Marcus felt a warmth in his chest. "Me too, honey. Me too." After hanging up, Marcus stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights. A year ago, he stood in the same position, his heart filled with anger and a desire for revenge. He couldn't have imagined then the peace and contentment he feels now. Life moves forward in unexpected ways. Claire chooses Brandon, a decision that destroys their marriage but also ultimately leads to Brandon's own destruction. The vengeance Marcus once craved was naturally realized, but not through his actions, but through the inevitable consequences of others' own choices. Marcus, on the other hand, finds a deeper level of fulfillment and happiness by choosing growth over revenge. The relationship with Rachel, the rebuilt connection with Lily, even the peaceful coexistence he's reached with Claire, these are gifts he didn't expect. Eventually, he realizes that true vengeance is not the punishment of others, but the refusal to let past hurts define his future. In a sense, the best revenge is indeed living a better life, proving that life can start over and get better after a broken one. As Rachel wrapped her arms around him from behind and rested her head on his shoulder, Marcus turned to the new life he had chosen. The story of betrayal is over, but his story, their story, is just beginning. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.